Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic that is very dear to my heart: unlocking employee potentials in the Nigerian civil and public service. And we are very privileged to have someone I respect deeply. I've had the privilege of working with personally and officially, Comrade Osaon Godfrey Omole. And I would just like to read his profile just so that we can get to know him and pay attention to him as he begins to share insights from his wealth of experience. Comrade Osaon Omole studied secretarial studies at national and higher national diploma level from prestigious Auchi Polytechnic. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Business Education from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Okap, and a master's degree in Business Administration from Ladoke Akintola University, Ogbomoso. He is a full member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria with a valid practice license, and he has a professional diploma in human resource management. He's also an associate of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, and a licensed practitioner of corporate governance with the same institute. He's also a full member of the African Institute of Public Administration, Ghana, a member of the Teachers Registration Council in Nigeria. He's a thoroughbred and seasoned administrator with over 18 years in Nigerian financial sector, oil and gas, and currently in the education sector. He has competencies in industrial relations, labor management, and corporate governance, people management, among other employee and employer strategic relations functions with strong negotiation skills. He has a penchant for impacting lives and the environment and leaving people better than he met them. He is a one-time elected council member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and a former chairman of the Edo State branch of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, where he resuscitated the branch and took it to an all-time high with full membership drive and mobilization, and was a very active voice on the Council of CIPN, championing various membership drive, particularly in the public civil service sector, where he served previously as branch secretary and also vice chairman. Currently, he's at the pinnacle of his career, serving as the chief confidential secretary in the reputable Auchi Polytechnic. He is also a labor leader, serving as a branch secretary of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Polytechnics and a council member with the Nigerian Labour Congress in Edo State. Ladies and gentlemen, Comrade Osaon is a recipient of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Polytechnic Award as the most outstanding branch secretary, and also a recipient of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria Appreciation Award plaque for meritorious service between 2021 and 2023. And he served in the International Conference and Exhibition Planning Committee of the CIPN in 2023. I also like to say that he's a family man. He's happily married to Mrs. Oita Odion Omole with two handsome boys, Eronsele and Udeyi. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to present to us, facilitating for the first time ever on this prestigious platform, on the topic, unlocking employee potential in Nigerian civil and public service, Comrade Osaon Omole. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, sir, and good evening, listeners and viewers. I want to commend my very respected ECM, Adeosun. Thank you very much, Adeosun, PhD. Thank you for this opportunity and for availing your platform to be able to speak with like-minded Nigerians and the world at large. It's actually a rare privilege to have us actually engage on a platform of such that has transcended beyond just the nation building into the global space. And so I don't take it for granted. Thank you very much. And all the viewers, the listeners, I owe you so much. I hope I'm actually able to speak to every aspect which is concerned in our topic today. But I'll be actually looking at those who are in the civil service and the public service. But how be it? I have also been a private sector player. I've worked in the banking sector, I've worked in the oil and gas marine sector, and also I've been in the field as a marketer. So, but for tonight, we'll be unlocking the employee potentials in Nigeria's civil service and the public service. Now, the Nigeria public and the civil service, what we're actually going to look at is first to conceptualize what the public and what the civil service is, because a lot of times people get to want to find out. When we hear the word civil servants, what does it relate with public service? Now, on one hand, we have those who have direct interface with the public, and we have those who have interfaces with the public sector economy, and they manage the organs of this public sector. So they are more or less like the regulator. So the civil servants are the ones who actually draw the strategic plan that translates to what the civil service using interfacing directly with the public. So whatever it is that you find happening in the public sector, that is what has actually been built by the civil servants to come out for the civil service. So, but sometimes we use them interchangeably. And well, it's no fault of ours because quite a number of us are accidental public servants. So we got into the public space accidentally. So the Nigerian civil and the public service sector, they are basically the backbone which government rests on to do its administration. So it plays a crucial role in the nation development. So whatever it is that you see that the public sector or the civil service are churning out, it's all from the government operational procedures. And we have challenges. These challenges are actually born out of inefficiency, ineffectiveness, and low productivity. Then we have the bureaucratic. In fact, every one of us can relate with what bureaucracy is when you go to any of the public sector area. When you visit any public sector area, in fact, I can tell that quite a number of us may have met resistances by way of bureaucracy. Take, for instance, you visit any of the tax office and you say you need a tax clearance certificates. That's a typical example in Nigeria. I can tell you that if it does operate in the private sector, at the click of the mouse, you get whatever it is you want. But this one, in the public sector and the civil service sector, you're on your own. So all these are some of the challenges which quite a lot of times we are faced with and we have to grapple with, in carrying out all of this. So in unlocking this space, one thing that we have to know is that the potential of this employee is within the sector. Their potentials are within the sector there. So within that sector, it is essential for the sector to actually be enhanced so as we can get an enhanced service delivery, we can drive innovation, we can have improved efficiency. So this conversation is going to be centered around all of this. Now, a number of times when you ask a Gen Z that, as soon as you graduate from law school, we want you to go and work in one of the civil service, just a state civil service. You can almost hear the Gen Z tells you, go for it. I want to go to a place where I will be useful to myself. These are some of the reasons why the civil service and the public service is where it is. Now, the challenges that we have in the civil service is one of those challenges that we all have as individuals in our respective lifestyle. The one we don't have that training and we don't develop our capacity. Now the public sector and the civil service sector is one place where, as soon as you are employed, you are from that day on your own. That is what one of my boss. I read the accidental public servant. I got to realize that, yes, truly, we are all accidental public servants. They just tell you, this is your employment letter, and you are employed on the executive cadre or the admin cadre, and the next thing is work contracts. So this public sector, they really do not invest in training, they don't build capacity, and these are the fundamental to unlock the employee potentials. So if you get into the public service and you ask a public servant, what is the meaning of onboarding? In fact, the Gen Z already can tell you what onboarding is. You know, now in the public service, well, far from it. Except for now that government has become deliberate to say, okay, we want to start putting in place. And that is because of the push that the private sector, especially the professional institutes, are putting to the public sector and the civil service sector. Otherwise, the only thing that you are there to do is I am directed on. That is what the civil service is known for. Every correspondence that you receive from them is I am directed to. At the end of the day, the person who directed you, the person's name will not be there. It is your name that will be there. Then even when you go for investigation and they fill out those correspondences and say, who directed you, the person who directed you will deny you. So for us to be able to have these challenges well addressed, the first thing is that we must continue to professionally develop our people in the public and the service and civil service sector. And again, we must be able to implement the continuous and professional development programs to ensure that these employees stay very current with industry standards and practices. Now, in the civil and public service sector, when you get in there, you still see the influx of paper leaves, which is against the ESG codes. Now, there are some places where you go to, you meet the chief executive officer and tell the chief executive officer, come, we can actually digitalize things here. And the person will tell you, you cannot do it with paper. You cannot do it with paper. In fact, I had a scenario recently where I met with the chief executive officer and we were having a conversation. And I was now standing up to look at the chief executive officer because the file on the person's desk was covering me from seeing the person. You know, I said, but all these things you can digitalize, you can put them in a digitalized form. I said, that is it's impossible. So that takes us to technology training. So a lot of them still don't believe that the life of today is now driven by ICT. And it's driven by data management. If you call any chief executive officer today and say, what is your staff strength? What is the workforce of your staff? What is the numeric strength? I'm telling you that only 10% is able to give you immediate answer. Otherwise, they tell you, let me get back to you. And that's one challenge that we have there. So because of that, we are actually not able to measure. We do not have the requisite indices to be able to speak to how many persons that we have in our employ. We do not have how many persons are doing what, how many persons are attending to whom. You know? So, and again, that is another challenge of leadership training. So we have a challenge that we do not even start to run our leaders now through specialized programs. When we get to the public and the civil service sector, one thing we always hear is we have executive cadre, we have admin cadre, we have secretarial cadre, we have the technical cadre. Then we have the finance cadre, we have the audit cadre, you know, just like that, under one salary scale and structure. But when we ask them, now, who is the person that is taking decision or solving problems? You will find out that at the end of the day, well, you will not be driving to a place of nowhere. Now, the main challenge that we have in the civil and civil service and public service sector is motivation and incentive structures. Now, we are all aware of the national minimum wage saga that is ongoing now, and that has greatly affected productivity in our Nigeria system. It has affected productivity, even at family level. So motivation is significantly impacts employee performance. Now, there is no private business owner who does not know the impact of motivating their workforce to be able to deliver optimally for their businesses. Now, rather than creating a supportive environment and recognize or reward excellence, which will boost morale and productivity, it is the other way around in the public and the civil service sector. Now, if you tell yourself the truth, if you break down 30,000 naira to a day earnings, that will take it to about 187 naira in a day. How many persons, what can we buy with 187 naira? Let's be frank with ourselves. So this is where we have as challenges. What can 187 naira do for you? Because a bottle of Coke is now above 300, 400 or 600 naira. So what are some of the strategies that we probably be speaking to let the public and the civil servants or those in position of authority know is that we must be performance-based incentivize. We must establish a clear criteria for us to reward performances and encourage hard work and those who are committed and dedicated to their work in the civil and in the public sector. Then again, we must regularly acknowledge and celebrate achievement to boost morale. Now, if you go to quite a number of private sector-driven organizations, you see pictures of people, the best talent person, the best this, in the public sector, you are on your own. You are strictly on your own, because whether you work 24 hours, you collapse and you die, well, even when you write a condolence message, in fact, the person who writes a condolence message will write that I am directed. And if the person doesn't get a directive, well, so then again, career advancement opportunities. Now, in the civil service, if you didn't enjoy the civil service, what everybody will tell you is that, may you work and retire well. That is it. So what they are telling you is that as you have gone from the beginning, so shall it be from now till the world's end. So what you are giving, provided they don't give you cutlass to begin to clear grass, but if that is your job function, that is what you do till the world will end, or till you clock 60 or you clock 65, depends on which of the divides you belong to. So the strategies that government should begin to employ now is that people should begin to put in efforts to develop or advance the career opportunities for public and civil servants. And if the organization don't do it for you, you should be able to do it for yourself. And again, you should be able to provide clear paths and opportunities for promotion to motivate employees. No doubt, at the end of everything else, prior to this time, except for now that we are trying to rejig the system, once you stay on your paper and you fill your APA form and you score 70 and above your APA form, automatically you are approved. In fact, you get to the system where everybody will be sure to tell you that, me and this person, we get the same, we join on the same day, now we fill our resumption form. We fill our resumption form the same day, and this person is on level 13, and they now tell me on level 12. In fact, for that protest alone, we rest assured that that person is moving to level 13, which is contemporaries, Now, leadership and management practices is another big challenge that we have. Now, effective leadership is critical in driving any of the general success stories. Now in organizations, you hear that they have a governing board. They have a board and the management reports to the board, just in that order, in that hierarchy. Now, you could see a public sector. A public sector will not have a board for a space of more than 1 year. So how do you make that organization effective? So leaders in the civil and public service must inspire, they must motivate, and they must guide their team. And these are supposed to be the key practices, for the organization or the institution to be able to be properly led. But we have this as a big challenge. Because when a board is not in place, the management has little or nothing to do. So the motivation that we have come and gotten approval, will become an issue. Promotion becomes an issue. But what are some of the strategies to remedy this? Transformational leadership. We should be able to encourage leaders to adopt transformational leadership styles that will inspire and motivate employees. And in transformational leadership that we have read in the books, we know how it is for you to use your position as a leader to be able to transfer the livelihood of a people. Then we also have participative management, the management that involves its employee in decision making. It will become bottom-up system, to foster the sense of ownership and accountability. That is why a lot of times when you meet a security man probably in the financial sector and you say, I want to open an account, at once the person will tell you, go and meet this person. But if you go to a public or a civil service and you meet the security man there and you say, I want to obtain my tax certificate, in fact, the person may likely not even talk to you because the person is living on 187 naira in a day. So the anger is there. So if we have that participative management, you will find out that people will become accountable. What measure they say gets done. So when we measure those things, when we are able to actually speak to those things, before you know it, we begin to, put things properly in place. And then we have mentorship programs, establishing mentorship programs to guide less experienced employees and develop future leaders. Very recently in my own organization, I had course to engage the management of my institution and say, see, a lot of persons are retiring, and quite a number of them are persons that have intellectual properties, which they ought to actually have, they are supposed to actually send back, to these younger generations that are just in a loop, that don't know where they are going to, but unfortunately, well, it's still a mirage, and we do hope that we'll get there someday. Now, what are some of the reforms that we're actually clamoring for? We are looking at systemic and structural reforms. Systems and structure. Number one is reforming the system and the structural issues. We need the civil and service so to be able to unlock these potentials. And what is involved is that we must start reducing bureaucracy. We must streamline processes and reduce red tape and improve efficiency. So we must be able to speak, to people and let them put timeline. Say, okay, just like in the financial sector, I've been in the financial sector. Now we had this map that once a person is standing before you, the person should not stand more than 10 minutes unattended to. So this will definitely start killing the bureaucracy if we have them there. And again, what gets measured, get done. So if what gets measured, get done, it therefore means that we must get it right first time and every time. We must get it right first time and every time. So with that, we begin to do away with bureaucracy, we begin to do away with inefficiency. Everybody will sit up on the job. And then we decentralize. When we decentralize, we are actually devolving powers to regional offices that will make decisions independently. This will enhance responsiveness and to make everybody become accountable. Now, there are some times in the public and civil service sector where we ask questions of who is this one, who is this, who brings this, who does this, and they will say, well, you're all for asking the question. But if we have a decentralized system where everybody knows that, this must emanate from the south, this must emanate from the north, then we will now begin to have these people become accountable, because you know that you have paid your signature, you are not directed to write, rather you are to use your initiative. Then we get transparency and accountability. This will implement measures to ensure that we are transparent in our operations, we hold our employees accountable for all their performances at their various desks of offices. So if we are able to put this systemic and this structural reforms together, then we are headed for our way up. So Now, in our work environment also, how do we, positively make the work culture to impact significantly on the employee's performance? Now, the health and wellness programs. Now, it may excite you to know that not too long that we actually have the National Health Insurance Scheme. And I can tell you for free that there are some core civil service that are not yet aware about the National Health Insurance Scheme. There are some organizations that are not aware of the National Health Insurance Scheme. That when they are sick, they still use their money to buy drugs. They don't know to what extent they can assess it. So these are things that will demoralize and demotivate work culture. So if government now start promoting physical and mental well-being through health initiatives and support services, then maybe we'll have a rigid system. Then work-life balance. Implement now a lot of organizations fall short, public and private sector fall short of this. They don't know what work-life balance is. Yours is to come to work 8 o'clock and you close 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, as the case may be. Whether you are sick or not, you are on your own. So this has a way of impeding on the job satisfaction and the productivity of the workforce in the public and civil service sector. Then we also have collaborative, culture, the encouraging teamwork. In the public sector, these things are lagging massively. We have a culture of backbiting. We have a culture of pulling down syndrome. And these are unhealthy work practices, work environment practices, work culture practices. So by the time that we're actually able to introduce all this, they will bring about efficiency in our public and private space. Then again, adopting technology and fostering innovations, they are crucial for modernizing the public and the civil service sector. And this can be achieved through digital transformation. I just shared with you a story of somebody I told about, digitalizing the system in the person's place of work, and the person told me, no, this, and then maybe you have met resistance. So if we are able to digitalize, now I'll give you a clear story in the place where I also reside in Edo State. Now, Edo State, for the past years, we've been having collaborative conversation around digitalization. When I was the branch chairman of the CIPM, I got to sing to the head of service, and the head of service is very listening, proactive. And immediately we have started the process. I can tell you today that, let me not over-exaggerate, maybe 80% of everything that is done in the Edo State civil and public sector are all driven by e-governance. If we have that replicated in the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT, then the federal parastatals, ministries, department, and agency, then you will begin to have improved service delivery. So we must leverage on technology. We must leverage on innovations. We must build an innovation hub. When we establish innovation hubs, labs within the sector, that will help us to live our archaic system of agriculture and help us get into a productive area. And then we must become data-driven. We must be driven by data in all decisions that we make. If we are driven by data, then I tell you that all the policies, all the operational efficiencies of government will become something that everybody will worry about. Now, in conclusion, for us to unlock the potentials of employees in civil and the public sector, it requires a multifaceted approach that combines both training, both motivation, both putting the proper leadership, both having a systemic reform that is deliberate, and both having a positive work environment and having a technological innovation. All this when we put all this together. And again, we should be able to address the areas, the sector that it will enhance its efficiency, its responsiveness, and its overall service delivery. Ultimately, it will contribute to our national development. Just imagine if we have to kill the use of paper, you know how much that will save for the organization. If it saves it for the organization, then also it is saving it for our nation. Then the government also should be in collaboration with stakeholders, and it must commit to these strategies. And they must realize their full potential of its workforce and make sure we drive meaningful change. Now, just imagine if all our public and civil service employees are giving orientation on mechanized farming, on industrial farming, on how to digitalize farming. Just imagine if we ever talk about hunger again, you know. So these are some of the things that I have the opportunity of sharing with us, and I just do hope that it does resonate with us. Now, we have quite a number of persons who are going to ask if they would like to join the public or the civil service. They'll tell you, "Hello, Jerry." You know, we should show that attitude, particularly Gen Zs. If you are not in there, you cannot instigate the change which you want to see happen. So on this note, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to listen to me. Thank you for the opportunity you have given to me, Mr. Adeosun. I really, really appreciate it, and good evening, everyone. I'll be waiting to get responses from questions and as we advance on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, comrade, for that insightful session. Very, very informative, educative, and enlightening. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take questions, comments, contributions, experience sharing. I have scanned through participants on this call, and I see senior people on this call. I even see some of our senior retired colleagues. Please feel free to share your experience on the topic, how we can better provide service and, enhance employee potentials in the civil service. All right. Before I'm tempted to call people, let me just see if we have some volunteers. We'll start with Uncle K. Uncle K, yeah, co-host. You can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adeosun. Although we missed you on Saturday, we didn't see you at Ibadan. Great presentation, very insightful. In fact, I must commend this our presenter for really speaking it as we experience it on a day-to-day basis when we interface with the civil servants. So my question is more of, in his own opinion, being a very grounded person, in that public sector, do you think that this public sector or the civil servants can ever work optimally like the private sector? What can make that happen? Knowing fully well that, the issues of the civil services there, the structure, the organizational design, and even the personnel and all what have you that has made it to be what it is and perform the way it performs currently. Can there ever be a time where the civil service or the civil servants can work optimally like the private sector? Thank you very much.
Okay, can I go ahead and respond now?
Yes, sir. Please do, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that question. I'm so grateful, and that's a thought-provoking one. Now, there's this common saying that if you don't train them, don't blame them. Now, we have this attitudinal challenge in the public service that makes us all believe that this person cannot just be productive. This person cannot do beyond this. But again, we are all humans. When we all came to the world, there is nobody who came with that knowledge. We all either trained ourselves or something pushed us to do. Now, I'll give you a clear example of what happened in Edo State Civil Service that I witnessed. When Edo State was to go into digitalization, now, something happened. There was a woman. When they told the woman that you are going to be using the system in your reportage and all that, the woman cried. In fact, she called me and started telling me that in every time she wants to get to this level, that is how he reaches in her village. That is how, in fact, she knows the person that whose hand is in this. You know? So she appealed to me to speak with the head of service to take her out of that place and take her to somewhere else. Now, in my sharing with her, I told her that, well, the unfortunate thing is that if they take you to that place now, and this thing now comes there, what will happen? So I began to tell her my own experience of how I started learning the system and all that. Then I told the head of service, I said, see, what we are going to do, you are going to be deliberate about this. Make sure that these people, what you are about to initiate now, make sure that they are trained on it. After all, how many of us that are in the millennial generation actually had opportunity to use the Android phone? We all accidentally got into the Android phone world or the iPhone world, and we started using it. And civil service space. She's the one championing it in Edo State. You can ask. You can verify this from the Edo State public sector. So there is nobody that cannot be trained. There is nobody that cannot use anything. Now, for those of us that are privileged to leave the shores of this country, when you get overseas, everything there are digitalized. Are you telling me that? Are there not some of our persons who did not go attend 4 years of school and they did very well there? How did they do well? So what we should advise and encourage government to do is they must invest, and they must be deliberate in investing in training and the training of the people. They must get practical tools, practical equipment, facilities. You know, now in my office, we wanted to be the team lead in setting up this place. And when I got there, it was a total, environment. I thought that I can't do that. I will do digital. I have set them on my own on training. You know, the first time we started, and they must to. They're already catching up. So we must be deliberate. We must train them. If you don't train them, then don't blame them. So training is the way to go. Thank you. I don't know if this makes sense to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your response. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still open to contributions, comments, or questions around this subject matter, or you want to share your experience, how you were able to drive employee productivity in the civil service. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open. All right. I would like to recognize very specially the Vice President, Charter Institute of Personnel Management. Madam Chidi, you have the floor, please.
Oh my God, I didn't see you.
Good evening, Osaho. Yes, I came in to listen to you. Thank you very much. And good evening, ECM Adeosun. Good evening to ECM Osaho and all I noticed some of my fellows here. Yeah, I could see Maria Hime and some others. Please, all the fellows, I greet you all. Good evening, sirs and mas. And then distinguished colleagues. and fellow participants. I'm only a participant here. I want to say thank you to our speaker for tonight, a distinguished young man, gentleman, let me not say young man, distinguished gentleman that I know, who has also been on our council and has served very well on our CIPM platform. I listened to all you have said, and rightly so. Thank you so much. In fact, I'm quite happy that I joined this call to hear you out. Thank you. I'm not also surprised considering the role you played in the public service at Edo State. God bless you. I just want to say something, which is my contribution here is that maybe we should stop comparing public service and private service. The private sector, the reason I said that is that I've interacted with some people in public service, particularly the ones of Lagos State. And I have a regret in my mind. I actually refused to join the public service even as a young girl because I felt, oh, those people, they are not working. Or you mean I should work in a place where I would resume by 10 a.m. and close by 12 o'clock or by 2 o'clock? That was the way I saw them. But Lagos State public service and maybe some other public service, like he's talking about those states that have transformed over time. But one thing I noticed is that they will never be like the private sector. The way they were set up, even the way they do their HR and everything is slightly different. And we must recognize that peculiarity they have. And even as an institute and professionals, we also try to deploy all that we deployed in private sector, like my colleague here have mentioned, the transformation project, the data-driven decisions, the leadership style and others. We must take it, but tweak it to suit the peculiarities of private sector. Because we could be here for 100 years. Private sector may still remain, public sector, sorry, I beg your pardon, public sector will still be peculiar in their own way and cannot just be taken and put within the space of private sector as private sector is now. I just thought I should call our attention to that. Even right now, as the wind of professionalization of HR is growing and blowing everywhere. We still discovered as an institute that we must tweak something in the private sector way. The curriculum, the way they want to learn, the way they deploy their HR is peculiar and a bit different from that of private sector. And the sooner we realize that, we will then be able to grow the public sector without wanting to box them exactly into the mold of private sector. That's what I just think we should take charge of. We should take cognizance of and recognize that, because I believe that it will help us in our push for a more efficient public sector. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I will stop there so that others can make their contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Vice President, for that insightful intervention. Comrade, you want to react to some of the things he has said?
Yes, thank you very much, my Vice President. I really appreciate seeing you on this call. It's a great encouragement for me. Thank you very, very much. Now, what you have said is actually apt, and that's one thing that I'd like us all to also recognize, that the public sector actually has its own peculiarities, and we must appreciate them for it. But again, for us to be able to work optimally, there must be a need for us to also always compare notes. So when we appreciate the public sector and the civil service sector for what they do, there could be a way that you could drive into the civil service sector or public service sector. When you see maybe where there are challenges, you don't look at them like they are outcasts. You could have a soft way to actually relate to these people, and you get to know that they are not the best Nigerians, just like you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll take my boss, Madam Omoba, first, then we'll come to Obeyi next. Madam Omoba, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. I also salute our Vice President. Thank you, ma'am, for your contributions, and thank you, Comrade Osaho, for all of those very apt things that you've told us. As some people might know, I'm a retired permanent secretary with the Lagos State Public Service, and I was one of the champions that migrated the Lagos State Public Service from personnel management into HR practice that we are doing now. And I know how difficult it was for us to migrate into that. We started on it since 2008. We didn't get it done until 2015. And that's how, you know, how long it took us to start doing it. So back to the, you know, conversation on the question that we're dealing with in comparing, you know, public services and how they can be best efficient in what they do. Comrade has said a lot of things. So everything that we're all saying is just, you know, an addition to what all the things that he has said ahead. And I would like us to also go beyond the shores of Nigeria right now in my own contribution. Luckily, I also worked as a public servant in the UK before I came to Nigeria in 2008, when I was actually headhunted to come as a technical director so that we can drive the HR process for Lagos State, because that was when Lagos State was going through all the reforms that it was doing. And one of the things that I noticed is that the Lagos State, and I probably would say the public service generally, was set up exactly the way it was set up in the UK when you know the British were with us. That's exactly the same. People that work here when we were in the UK, people that work in the UK are always saying that the public sector is not well paid. The public sector is not as efficient as the private sector because of all of these conversations that we've had earlier, you know, and there's a reason why. The reason is because everything about the public sector is meant to attract people so that they can, you know, make it easier for people to work with them. So if you see a position that is going in the private sector, the standard that will be set for people to apply for that position will be lower when it is a position of a public sector. And that is deliberate, is to allow people to get into the public sector, because that's the only business that public sector is doing. We don't have any other business than to meet the needs of our citizens. That's why we're set up. We're set up to meet the needs for every ministry that is established, for every agency that is established. It's because there's a need for the citizens to be met. And so, like my vice president said, there's no leverage for comparison at all. The only thing that we can now start infusing is to empower them through training, through mentorship, you know, peer reviews, have a structure in place where there's a proper, you know, mentorship, shadowing, and all of that. When the junior ones are coming in, they also need to be more intentional with the recruitment process, so that we need to remove all of this. You know, we have our nepotism, man, no man, you know, someone who knows somebody who knows someone. It is also happening in the UK. The only difference is that the UK will not introduce anybody to you if they know they cannot do the job. So they too have those pressures of the big people saying, oh, you know, if that person is going to give you a recommendation, say, oh, this is my nephew, or this is my, you know, friend's son, I want you to employ them. They'll then tell you they had a 2-1, they had a first class. They will not bring someone who doesn't know anything. That's what happens in Nigeria. They don't care what, you know, that person, they try to put, you know, square pegs in round holes. And that's why you see that some of the people that we have in the system, they're not fit for purpose, because there's somebody from the House of Assembly brought them, and somebody from this place brought them, somebody from, whether or not they know the job. And they are those sort of people are the ones that come into the system and make it bad, because they know they have some godfather, they have some people that are looking after the interest. They become sacred cows that cannot be touched. They do anything they like. They will come to work whenever they like. If you go, when I started working in the system, I found out that when they say people come to work at 10 a.m., they close at 2 p.m., and I'm thinking, where are they? Because that's not what is happening. They are really working. So these are some of the things that we just need to change. That's different from the one that happens. You know, I will use UK because I worked within the UK. The UK, they have the structure. However, in the UK, do you know you can work 2 hours? They call it flexi hours. They accommodate every set of, you know, whatever category you have. So they have what they call term times. So people will only come to work when their children are in school. Term times. So when there's terms going on in school, the parents will come to work, but when they're on holiday, they will stay at home because they know that the salary is not enough for them to pay for babysitters, for after school, for all of these things. So those are the kind of things that they have put in place. And so when the private sectors are looking at them, they'll say, oh, look at that public service. You only work 2 hours a week. And that's what they're saying, you know, they only work 7 hours a week. The same way, but unfortunately, we don't have that structure in Nigeria. We don't have it where they can accommodate different sets of, you know, the type of work that you can do, the type of time that you can come to work, and, you know, the special type of work that you can. So if someone was, you know, has learning disabilities, they will find a work for you that you can do within the public sector. If someone is, you know, like we say, you know, differently abled, that's the politically correct word now. If they're differently abled, they will find a work for you to do, you know, and that's why I would say that they're a bit different. You know, the public service in the UK is a bit different from the public sector in Nigeria. But in terms of, you know, the way they are set up, in terms of the way they work, in terms of all of these things, they're exactly the same. In terms of, you know, lowering their standards to accommodate more staff, it's exactly the same. But they've put a proper structure in place that helps, including the performance appraisals. Performance appraisals in Nigeria are subjective. They're not objective. So we need to also deal with that. Lagos State has tried. We are the only state, I stand to be corrected. However, I think we are the only state that have a different type of performance appraisal system, you know, that is different from what all the other states in the Federation are doing. We have moderated ours to become more objective rather than subjective. So these are some of the things that we can put. Let me yield the floor to other people. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Adeosun. Well done for a good job, sir.
Thank you so much, Ma, for your contribution. I had the intention that I will call you, and I'm excited that you volunteered to share with us from your wealth of experience. You mentioned many things. If I will just recap, for example, you spoke around inclusivity, which is very important for the different categories of citizens to be accommodated. You also spoke about, for example, flexi work hours, which is largely available in UK and is something we may also consider here to accommodate the, for example, working mothers and people with special needs. You also mentioned, you know, sometimes special candidates with respect to recruitment, focusing on quality of the hire. Yes, you can be nominated or recommended by somebody, but you should be good, you should be capable, and you should be put in a place where you really, really fit. And then even when you come through recommendation, you should also be a professional. Of course, I've worked in private sector for over about 20 years, and I can say authoritatively, in almost every place I've worked, we also get recommendation. You will see letter from Senate, House of Assembly, National Assembly, State Assembly, the Speaker, they will send this to you. What we just try to do in some instances is you run them through the thorough recruitment process, but there are certain instances, we call them special candidates, maybe because the person is one of the key people giving you business in the organization. You find a way to accommodate them. Of course, you will not try and see where they can fit, where they won't disturb the productivity in the business. And thank you so much for sharing a little insight around the transformation journey of the Lagos State Civil Service, which all of us, especially those of us based in Lagos, can testify the significant milestone and achievement that has been done. Just to mention, along the same line, there's one profession I notice generally, doctors. Most doctors prefer to work with the government than with private. I just want to also put that out. It's not in all professions. If you ask the average doctor that would you rather work with the state or federal government or a private hospital, in that sector, even or pharmacists, they will tell you they prefer the government. So it's not in all categories of employee classes that people prefer the private sector to the public. Because, for example, how many private hospitals will have the equipment and tools a teaching hospital will have? You understand what I'm trying to say? So again, we are not comparing in any way. In fact, we need the two sectors to step up. Private sector needs to step up our game. Our productivity can be way better. And I'm speaking authoritatively based on practical experience and also based on research. In fact, some of the, so to speak, issues in public sector, we in the private sector, we are the one who enabled it. You'll be the one trying to compromise it. You say, please take something, help us. Can you reduce the standard? Can you fast track? We are all co-enablers, both the private and the public sector. We are from the same society down to our politicians. Thank you so much, Princess. Those points were very, very valid, very enriching to this contribution. Thank you again to our VP for insightful comments. We'll quickly take Obeyi Omale. You have the floor, sir. Oma. So let me assume your gender.
Good evening. Okay, Emil. I'm a
okay.
Good evening, everyone. In fact, I've listened to this speaker. I must tell you, I'm really overwhelmed. I'm blown off, honestly speaking. I like the topic, and I like the contributions that I have heard so far. Especially the last one. Thank God the person is speaking from the person is coming from the public service and is speaking as a public servant. And though the first person before her spoke from the private mindset, well, I have tasted both. I joined Edo State government from Zenith Bank. So I can speak from both ends. And then I can tell you authoritatively how both work. Fine. Now, speaking about the public sector, yes, we know a lot of decadence are really happening around there, but it really depends on the government, the person who is driving the system. For example, if you come to Edo State, when I first came to Edo State, I thought it was going to be this because I was actually appointed by the governor to strengthen the manpower sector of the public service. So I thought it was just going to be this normal. But when I got here, of course the set of persons I met on ground, they are good. They are fire, but it's just a bit of twigs, lousiness. I would agree with that because they see I am working, my colleague is not putting much effort, but at the end of the day, we both get paid and all that. A lot has really changed, especially in Edo State, because we were the first set of persons that brought in the transformation. We brought in the transformation agenda. So as we speak right now, with the introduction of the eGov, you can do anything from any part of the world. The governor sees you right from where he's seated. So it is no longer game as usual in Edo State. The governor sees there's the individual performance appraiser, there's the sector performance appraiser, and then there's the MDA performance appraisers. So all these, if the individual does not put in his best, then there's no way the MDA can say, yes, I have done this, you know? So all these, what did we do? when we came on board, as for the Edo State government, we told the governor, I am the strategy arm of the governor. I am strategy performance management special assistant to the governor. So we actually introduced the performance appraiser, the 360 performance appraiser that does not care whether you go messages for the boss 20, 30 times a day. It is your deliverable that counts, that matters. That is what you are appraised based on. So if you now know that, you are pushed to put in all your best. And like the governor would always say, the civil servants are the engine room of the government. If the engine, like a vehicle, does not move, the vehicle cannot move. So in like manner, the government is the vehicle. And then the vehicle, the engine is what the vehicle runs with. So if the engine does not start, it doesn't move, then there's no way, no matter how beautiful your government is, no matter how beautiful your vehicle is, it still will not move. So the governor has to put in all efforts to ensure that he trains the civil servants in Edo State. So there's the JUPSA, the John Odige Oyegun Public Service Academy. You can Google all these things I'm talking about. It's a world-class training environment where these civil servants now had to start learning and relearning, training every now and then to ensure that they are best suited in every position that they find themselves. So of course, we know that the man-o-man thing played out early, so that's not what we can actually deal with. But of course, now that we are in, the man-o-man persons that you think is not intelligent, we can train the person. Of course, with training, you can get the best out of any human being. So now that they have been trained, they are zealous to put in their best, and especially when they know that they are reviewed. Everything they do is reviewed. Their performances is reviewed. What they are putting is tested. They want to try as much as possible to put in all their best to get the best out of the system. So this is what we have done over time. A whole lot, we've done a whole lot of transformation around the civil service. And currently, if you walk into an average Edo State civil service institution, in fact, I can tell you clearly that, yes, I would prefer to even work in the civil service than in a private organization, because it strains you. These are policy, they are the engine, they make policies, and making policies entails a lot of brain draining. You have to storm your brain to make policies. So these guys, whoever works in a civil service should be praised, because this set of persons, where they work, they make policies that drives about 200 million persons. Government makes the policy that drives the private sector. So the best brains are supposed to be domiciled in the public sector, no doubt. And so if this is done, that is the only way we can get the system right. For example, look at our monetary policies, fiscal policies in the federal level. I don't want to cast aspersions. A whole lot is going very wrong, and that's why we are getting the results we are getting currently. But if we have the best brains in public sector, you cannot show you. In fact, that's when policies can be gotten right and how they should be. So we really want to encourage that every government should put in everything it takes to train, retrain, and then get the best brains. Like in Edo State, we have started employing every first class grad. If you are an Edo indigenous and you graduate with a first class, we employ you. Fine, the salaries, they would tell you it's not okay. What Edo State currently is paying is 70,000 naira as minimum wage. So a level 9 staff of Edo State government earns somewhere around what is private sector's colleague would earn. So these are ways with which we can really encourage people to join the public service. It is very important that we encourage people to join the public service, because policies made in public service can have a very long way to affecting the entire nation and our generation yet unborn. So that's why we should strive to get the public service rights. So thank you so much for all the lectures. Thank you for the opportunities you've given to really add this. I have worked in both ends, so I can tell you categorically how both ends work. A lot of miscreants came into public service because pay were not good. But if the government is able to raise pay and pay commensurate with the private sector individual, why not get the best brains or train the guys that you already have on ground to make good policies for you and then drive the economy of the country at large?
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very brilliant contribution. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, both from the private sector and the public sector. And to be honest, we are very proud of the giant stride Edo State has made, especially in the last 8 years or thereabout. Omoba dropped some comments. Let me just read it here, then we'll come to Ahmad. That will be our final contribution. I will take the closing remarks from Comrade Osaon so that we can call it a wrap. Madam says here, we call it dashboard. That is the performance management in Lagos State. And there are key performance indicators. And there is also the service charter that puts in place measurable service delivery, measurable standard. We also have the Public Service Staff Development Center, PSSDC, and the International Training Center for Public Servants in Lagos State. I also commend Lagos State. I've been to that PSSDC for the CIPM. We do training there. The environment, the ambience, the classroom, fully air conditioned, the offices is world-class facilities. And I have people who have done trainings there, including civil servants, and the quality of the trainings is top-notch, is global. Thank you so much to Lagos State and the employees of Lagos State who are, putting this out. Just to mention, someone was telling me that tonight's webinar, that only people in civil service will come. I said that would be a big mistake. There are many good things people in private sector should learn from the public sector, and in some of the things, when you take things like succession planning and the likes, it is even better in public sector in Nigeria today than in many private sector. You know who is next, and the training is ongoing. Please, we have to be, nobody should allow pride setting. You must learn from all these sectors, and all of us must learn from each other, and then we develop each other. We'd like to take comments or questions or contributions from Ahmad Abdulaziz. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Oluyemi.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, professional colleagues. Mr. Oluyemi, let me thank you for the good work you are doing. Of course, this is my first session this year because I transmuted from HR to finance. So I've not been really participating in the program this year. However, the topic of today really caught my attention because I moved from public sector to private sector. I've once spent 18 years in the public service. And all my 18 years, I spent about 9 months in Kwara State Civil Service before I joined former President Olusegun Obasanjo when he was about to go. And I've been very, very blessed to work around all areas of federal public service. And permit me to say that the best brain, just like the last contributor just mentioned, should be in public service. However, if that will be, we should start from the recruitment process. The best brain that you want in the public service should be considered when you are doing recruitment, not the son or daughters of who is who majorly are not ready to contribute or do not even have what it takes to contribute to the growth of the public service. When we joined, we were very lucky to work under the likes of Okonjo-Iweala, Ezekwesili, and the likes. And they trained us both within and outside the country. Permit me to say this. It was one of the studies we carried out in Singapore that made us to understand that the best brain, even in Singapore, before you can be taken to public service, you will have PhD, or you're about to have your PhD. But in Nigeria, it is who knows who, federal character issues, and so on and so forth. So even from our recruitment, all is wrong. The investment that is supposed to be given to training is not there because they see it as a waste. Some of this money are diverted when they are supposed to be used to train the people that will bet the policies that is supposed or that are supposed to help the public service to run smoothly. Some of us, when we joined, they made it mandatory that we must go for masters in public administration because it's all about public service. My first degree is economics. I wanted to go for MSc economics, but no, because I was employed into the State House Economic Matters, Office of the Chief of Staff to the President. That time they call it high flyers. But some of us that, to God be the glory, were the best brain that time. I was reward system of public service. You will see that, okay, they have brought you in, but at the end of the day, what is needed or what are needed for you to do the work necessarily are not provided. The ward system that we even went for, most of the times you make your recommendations, they are not taken. So in short, we need to take our recruitment very seriously in public service. Though I'm no longer there, I left September last year to private sector. Our training should also be taken seriously in public service. Performance management and discipline is very, very key. It is not when you want to do this, they will say, do you know who the father is? Or do you know who brought him or who brought her? Then the essence of everything will be defeated. And also to attract, retain, as well as motivate them, you need to bring very good reward system to the civil service. Thank you, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulaziz, for your contribution. Thank you so much. I'll take one more comment from the chat box here. Then we'll take closing remarks from Comrade Osama Molly. And MA says here, long before now, the best brains were in the public service. Remember the days of super palm sex. Quota system eroded the sector, and the result is felt in every area of the country. That is from Madam Maria Aime. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your contribution. Well appreciated. Closing remarks and comments from Comrade Osama Mali.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Let me commend Princess. Princess, thank you very much. Good evening, man. Good to see you here. I want to also acknowledge the progress of my ECM.
Good evening, sir. Well done. For a job well done. I'm always proud of you, sir.
Thank you so much for all you do for our institutes and for all you do for the country. we are quite appreciative of it. We can't thank you enough. You know, on a closing note, I want to say, in all our aspects of life, I believe that if you don't train people, don't blame people. If you have engaged the services of a cleaner in your house, and you did not tell the cleaner on clear terms and instructions what he or she is to do, that will be a KPI for your measurement that the person had actually cleaned, then don't blame the person. So if we must bring people into the public service, whether irrespective of their classes, whether they are the lowest or the highest, there's no brain that is too brilliant or too dull to be trained. So in the public sector, we all should begin to appreciate the public servants. In fact, for me, I always advocate that if you see a public servant, whoever you are, please doff your hat for that public servant, because the public servant is actually doing a lot to ensure that the country is running and running smoothly, irrespective of the little motivation that he or she is getting. On that note, I want to say thank you very much, my ECM Oluyemi Adeosun. Thank you for affording me this platform. I'm so grateful. I don't take it for granted. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. God bless every one of us, and happy New Month in advance.
Thank you so much, Comrade Osan Omole. Thank you for sharing so much from your wealth of experience, your training, your knowledge, your expertise. We appreciate. We like to celebrate everybody who joined this call tonight. SARS and MAS, we do not take your time or presence for granted, and we celebrate you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great session. Please, let's get some rest and let's have a productive week. Good night and God bless.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mr. Yemi Adeosun. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.